Because once you get that watch that you thought that you really wanted, and trust me, that excitement is gonna fade, and then you're gonna want the next thing. And there's watch brands that I respect way more than Rolex and AP. That I have watches lower than this Rolex Datejust. I have a Omega Constellation Pi Pen, which was Omega's answer. Welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's video, I'm discussing the topic of watches that currently you may not be able to achieve or pick up or wear on your wrist. Like, let's say a Rolex, a AP, a Vacheron, a Richard Mille, the watches that are most talked about on YouTube. And now you must say, oh, so why is it such a big deal you guys talk about Rolex so much on YouTube? It's just because those are the videos that get the most views. There's watch brands that I respect way more than Rolex and AP. So the point of this video is, don't be discouraged that you can't afford or pick up a Rolex right now. In the watch community, you'll get the same amount of respect if you pick up a lower entry-level watch, a lower entry-level watch brand. It doesn't need to be Rolex. Now, even on the Rolex arena, there are lower level watches that you can afford in Rolex. It doesn't have to be a Datejust or a Submariner or a GMT. It could just be a Rolex Date, a Rolex OP. It could be a vintage, a precision. There's watches in the Rolex umbrella that's affordable for most people. The one thing I would say is stay away from the fashion brands. So the Marc Jacobs and all, I don't know, some of those names, stay away from those. Trust me, you don't want to get around anybody that's really a hardcore watch enthusiast. You won't be able to have really good conversation with that person. But there are watches in the vintage and in the neo-vintage modern realm that you could afford, have on your wrist in the $500 range, maybe $1,000 range, and you would fit in well with any watch collector, no matter if he has Patek, Vacherons, AP. He would still look at your piece and be, you know, amazed. I'm more impressed by pieces that I don't see often. Think about this. Why would me, let's say I'm a watch collector and I have all the modern GMTs, all the Rolex GMTs, all the AP, the Royal Oak, Pateks, and I sit down with another collector and he has all the same pieces as me? That's not interesting at all. Having something it could be cheap but rare, hard to find, that makes it more interesting than, let's say, a $50,000 watch that just everyone else has. A point that really made me want to have this conversation and discuss this on this channel is that I was sitting looking at my Rolex Datejust 16014, and I quickly glanced at it and I'm like, you're not impressing me anymore. Like, I have talks with my watches. I'm looking at it, and because I'm wearing it as my daily, and I'm like, you're not doing it for me. Like, I don't really see the beauty, because, you know, when you're used to something, you see it every day, that excitement kind of fades. But I told myself, but I know if I put this watch away for 2 weeks, not looking at it, not trying it on, and I pick it up and I put it back on my wrist, that excitement that I had in the beginning, I'll feel it again. So that's something to think about. One other thing too is that I have watches lower than this Rolex Datejust. I have a Omega Constellation Pi Pen, which was Omega's answer, or, you know, competition bringing to the table with Rolex Datejust. So side by side, the Omega Constellation was Omega's top premium, you know, model, the Constellation. And of course, in society, most people would look at the Rolex Datejust as the better watch, and in a sense, it is the better watch. But it's strange that I look at my Rolex side by side with my Omega Constellation, and some days I say the Constellation is better. The Constellation is a 1966 Pi Pen, and the dial has patina that's very heavy. It's definitely noticeable as when you bring it close to you. From far, it just has a cream look, but close up you can see the discoloration. But to me, that adds character to the watch. It makes it very unique that I'm not going to see someone out there with another Omega Constellation. I rarely see Omega Constellations out there, and definitely not one with the patina that this one has on the dial. So that's just an example to say, from my experience, I'm letting you know that if I see someone with my Rolex Datejust 16014 blue dial, and I see someone with an Omega Constellation, I'm gonna be more interested in having a conversation with the Omega owner, because that's just something you don't see often. You don't see a Constellation Paipan on someone's wrist on an everyday basis. Here in Miami, every girl has a Rolex Datejust, a President. Every guy has a Submariner GMT. It's just common. But things that's very rare or you don't see often is definitely more interesting. And I don't want you guys to get discouraged. That's the whole point of this video, is get discouraged, because you see on YouTube, most videos are just pumping the hype of Rolex, AP, Patek, but not putting, you know, spotlights on other brands. Sure, I love some other YouTube channels because they do bring attention to, like, let's say Hamilton, IWC, Breitling, and even today I watched a video with Hublot, and in that video, it reminded me that I used to be heavily interested in Hublot watches, Hublot, whatever you want to say, how you want to pronounce it. I was very interested in those watches, and the video was basically trying to say that Hublot was the first brand to introduce a lot of things, introduce a lot of colors to ceramic watches. They were the first. They were the first luxury watch brand to put a rubber strap on a watch. And one more point too that was made in the video. And it's things like that, reminders that's needed, because a lot of other YouTube channels, a lot of content try to bring down Hublot and try to make people steer away from it. But at the same time, they have made a lot of achievements that should be recognized. So it's things like that where you can have a conversation. If you have a Hublot on your wrist and someone looks at you and they kind of laugh and make a joke about you wearing one on your wrist, you could check them on these points and say, hey, this Hublot was the first brand, watch brand, luxury brand to wear, to attach a rubber strap to their watch. And now it's just a popular thing. Rolex does it, Richard Mille does it, you know, on the high-end scale, having rubber bands on their, rubber straps on their watches. So things like this, guys, appreciate what you have, appreciate what you can afford, because once you get that watch that you thought that you really wanted, you trust me, you really wanted it, but sometimes for the wrong reasons. It's because, hey, you think this is just gonna make you popular, make you fit in, this is what everyone's talking about on YouTube or in the workplace or whatever the case may be. And trust me, that excitement is gonna fade, and then you're gonna want the next thing, the next best thing, the next best thing. So it needs to come to a point where you're gonna be content with what you have, enjoy it, love it, buy it for the right reasons. And the right reasons should be because you love it, you love the story behind it, you love the watch brand, what they've been through to get to the point that they are. Just things like that should be the reason why you purchase a watch. Yes, it could be aesthetics, it could be the movement. If you're into engineering and mechanics, of course, that could be a good reason to buy a watch. It could be certain functions that, based on your job, whatever you do, let's say you're a pilot, of course you'll want a GMT. You might lean towards, of course, a Rolex GMT or IWC, because they, you know, are pioneers in the whole watches with aviation. So guys, think about that stuff when you're trying to purchase a watch. Don't just buy a watch just to fit in and to just buy into the hype. I apologize for making this video go overboard, but you know, things are just coming to my head, and I'm just making sure I let everyone know what's on my mind, my thoughts. But I hope you guys enjoy this content. If you love the message that I'm spreading, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, follow me on Instagram, mentorship.ceo, and stay tuned for the next video.